Sarah breathed. Standing before the casting agent and the director, the actress was ready to launch into the audition piece. Though this was her 38th audition since coming to LA, it was the first audition she'd had in almost 6 weeks. She was relieved to find that the audition piece was a dramatic scene and was, in fact, somewhat depressing. Considering recent events with her now ex-boyfriend, the agent, she really didn't feel that she could take on a bubbly comedy piece. Not without large amounts of some sort of pharmaceutical happiness. Large amounts. Hi, I'm Neil A. Yeager, and today I'm reading from my novel, Non-Hollywood. Be sure to check the video's descriptions for links to where you can get a copy of Non-Hollywood or one of my other books. This is chapter 11, Look Like Your Headshot. A depressing piece. This was something that Sarah felt confident that she could nail on this audition number 38. And just as she was about to begin, the director suddenly barked out, "You don't really look like your headshot," which brought Sarah to a slightly grinding halt. Yeah, she said, "I've been told that, and I'm working on getting some new ones." Which was half truth and half lie. Her ex, Mitchell, the newly minted talent agent, had said to her many times that casting directors want to see what you look like. He claimed that for good or bad, your headshot needs to look like what you really look like, or these guys get pissed off. He had told Sarah time and again that she needed to reshoot her headshots to look more like her rather than some glamorized version of her. But she had debated this point for quite some time. She was already self-conscious that she didn't look like the model that she was apparently supposed to look like, so she wasn't eager to have photos wherein she looked less good. But finally, on Mitchell's somewhat expert advice, he was a talent agent after all, Sarah had gone through the whole ordeal again. The search for the right photographer, the headshot photo shoot, the proofs, the expensive printing the things up again and posting them on all the right websites again. And yes, she had ended up with a headshot that looked more like her. But guess what else? She sent these new photos out and never got called for a single audition using them. Not one single audition. And how in the hell was she supposed to get anywhere if she couldn't even get an audition? So, in the end, she felt that if the inaccurate photos could get her in the door, then at least that was something. So, that was the headshot she used. Besides, having a photo wherein she looked really pretty had helped to boost her confidence. The director shook his head, then held up Sarah's photo. "This is your headshot." Yes it is," Sarah replied. The director again shook his head. Then he shrugged and said flatly, "Oh well, I guess you might as well go ahead." And with that vote of confidence to boost her ego, Sarah closed her eyes and took another deep breath. Then, figuring, what the hell, she launched into the audition piece. The place was quiet. Sarah had finished her audition piece. Both the director and the casting agent simply stared at her. The director's mouth, in fact, hung slightly open. As Sarah wiped a trace of a tear from her eye, the director finally spoke. Wow, that was actually, wow." And the casting agent chimed in with, "That was a good read, thank you." Now, Sarah had been to enough auditions to know that thank you was the cue for the actor to exit the room. As she headed for the door, the director called to her, If you've got a few minutes, could you wait out in the hall for a bit?" "Sure," she replied. Then Sarah left the room and sat down again amongst the other hopefuls who were waiting in the hall for their turn to read. Sarah closed her eyes and tried to will her heart to beat at less than its current 5,000 beats per minute. It was obvious that she had impressed the director. The look on his face had been priceless, like he'd just heard his cat recite the Gettysburg Address or something. But she had to remind herself that in the cutthroat business of Hollywood, this meant exactly nothing. Still though, he had asked her to wait. She opened her eyes and for the first time noticed that in the chairs facing her were 5 girls who looked so much alike that they surely must have sprung from the same petri dish. And most startling was the realization that they all looked like Sarah's photo. As she mulled that one over, had the printer decided to go into the cloning business and used her headshot as his template? The casting agent called her back into the room. The director said, "Okay, good news and bad news here. Or actually, why don't we do it the other way around? The bad news is you're not what we had in mind for this role. The good news is that we've got this other role that we haven't started casting yet. It's a much, much smaller role, but it's a part that's very important to the plot, crucial to the plot, and I would like to offer it to you. If you want it, it's yours." Now it was Sarah's turn to have slack jaw. After all this time, after all the auditions, after 38 damned auditions, she was being offered a role? A real role. A role in a film that actually had a budget and would actually pay her to act? And after only one reading? True, it was a small independent film. True, it was non-union, so not really much of a career step, but it was a role. Finally, someone had noticed that she had talent and had offered her something. Finally. Would she take it? Hell yes. Sarah nodded with a smile and said, "Yes, I'll take it." The casting agent gathered together a few pages for her and said, "Forgive me, I'm a little unprepared here. I wasn't expecting to do this yet, so I don't have a contract or forms for you, but here's my card. And if you stop by my office tomorrow morning between 8 and 10, I'll get you set up. Meanwhile, here's a copy of the script and a copy of the sides, so you know which character you're going to play." Sarah didn't even look at what was handed to her. She was in too much of a daze. She merely shook hands with the two and then walked out into the hall. Floated out into the hall. Sarah was in such a state of dazed euphoria that she walked out of the building and across the street without even looking. She was a very lucky girl indeed to encounter an actual empty street in LA, thus avoiding being quite surely splattered by a vehicle. Her first real acting role. She'd been at this grind for more than a year and a half now. The classes, the auditions, the endless hustle and hassle of it. Not to mention the frequent calls from her mother urging Sarah to give up acting and come back home to the family's insurance agency. Now there was a role, a real acting role. Now it was finally paying off. Finally! She stopped beside her car, her old rusting car, and thought of how she wanted to tell everyone in the world. She wanted to run and scream up and down the street. But the person she found herself most wanting to tell was Mitchell. She paused for a moment and thought that one over. Then, deciding that if it was just career talk, not ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend talk, she could talk to him. He was a Hollywood talent agent after all. And she'd love for him to know that just as his career was taking off, so too was hers. Sarah pulled out her phone, dialed Mitchell's number, and was unsurprised to get his voicemail. She began, "Hey, it's me. I just wanted, well, I got some news, and I thought I'd share it with you. That audition today, that I went to today, I got the part. Well, not the part I read for, But they did give me a part. The whole thing was pretty flattering, actually. They said they weren't going to read anyone else for that part, just gave it to me. I haven't read the script yet, but the director said that the role was crucial to the plot, which I guess means that my little part won't get cut. Maybe when I read it through, I'll email it to you. I don't know what the character's name is. Hang on. They wrote it on the sides. Excited, she looked down at the paper the casting agent had given her. What was her part? What could it be? There, at the top of the page, handwritten in purple ink, was the heading, Character, Ugly Girl.